All right, we're recording. This is session 95. Four. Right. Mick says four. So our 6-part series of learning PowerShell for incident response and blue teamers. So as of course, Mick, out of the kindness of his heart, he's actually teaching a SANS course in Nashville. So he's, not having fun hobnobbing with all the people at the SANS course. You're shaking your head. No, you're not.
No.
Not having fun with the hobs and the nobbings. Okay.
None. No knobbing or hobbing is going on.
I apologize for that. I had fun in my one in San Diego. So, all right. Well, without further ado, this is Mick. He's at Better Safety Net on Twitter. He has a website, which he'll tell you about. If you want to follow BrakeSec's podcast, we're at BrakeSec on Twitter or breakingsecurity.com. So there you go, Nick. Mick, take it away.
All right, cool deal. Well, so here we are, class number 4, and so thanks for everybody who's been reaching out to me, and I'm having a lot of fun checking your PowerShell scripts and stuff, and it's really cool. Some folks really enjoyed the session last week where I was struggling, and I find that weird, but I appreciate the encouragement that folks gave, and some folks are encouraging me to keep coming at you a little more raw and seeing how I struggle and how you overcome issues with PowerShell. And so what I'm going to highlight are some, it keeps it real. Okay, well, that's what I intend to do. I keep it real. Real janky, I guess. Here, let's talk a bit about myself. My name's Better Safety Net. You should check out on the SANS site. I do have some openings still in SANS Chicago, so if you want to hang out with me and learn some incident response 504, feel free to come join along. And also Sec 504 in Seattle, that's true. Please buck the trend. Seattle has been, has canceled on me a couple times, so hopefully you in the Pacific Northwest can make it happen. So, a couple items. Plenty of folks have been sending me their file integrity monitoring scripts. If you want me to take a look at the scripts, I will be happy to do so. Some folks are getting really, really creative and good, and I'm happy to take a look at stuff, and I'm going to give you a very interesting PowerShell challenge if you're feeling up to it. It's not for everyone, but it is something that can definitely help make your FIM be a little more impressive, if you'd like. And we'll talk about it. You're going to want to do a little bit of research, though, before you accept this challenge, and I think you'll understand why. We're also going to be doing some down and dirty hacking on some pretty fun stuff, and we're going to have demos deliberately blow up, and we're going to talk about how you go about fixing them and some things that you can do to get needful and interesting information. We're going to have a very, very high-level overview of bad guy persistence methods and how you may go about getting them with PowerShell or other tools. And then, did it execute? A couple years ago, Mandiant, aka FireEye or whoever now they are or whatever that's about, wrote a script or wrote a blog posting called Did It Execute, and there were some parts of it that were really, really cool, where they assembled in one spot a location that allows you to quickly and easily see if a system was executing particular items. And so what I'm going to do is highlight that and show you how there's some rough bits and what you can do to start hacking with me on these sorts of things. So first things first, let's talk about our FIM homeworks. If you haven't done so, please send me your stuff. If you don't, if you feel embarrassed to do so, I mean, gosh, did you see the FIM solution that I hacked together really quickly? So don't feel bad. What I'd like you to do is, and again, the slides will be available on the InfoSec Innovations BDS PowerShell class link that's at the top of the slides. You want to take a look at this blog posting for Rambling Cookie Shell Monster on the SQLite and PowerShell. This will introduce you to a very interesting concept that we haven't yet covered in PowerShell, and that is the concept of providers. And what's interesting is that a provider from the PowerShell prompt kind of feels like a drive. So using SQLite, you can actually attach a SQLite database as if it's a drive. And so instead of just simply connecting to like C colon or D colon, you can connect to any provider. And that's kind of the hidden theme behind today, and why I'm talking about the did it execute blog posting from FireEye. So let me drop over to a PowerShell prompt and show you what I'm talking about here. As you can see, I'm running as administrator. You don't have to be administrator, but this certainly helps in this particular thing. There are different providers on Windows machines, and what I find rather interesting is you can interact with those drivers, or providers, like I said, as a drive. So on my machine, I have a C drive. I also have a D drive, and you change to the D drive like so, just like normal. But what's wild is that many users don't know that you have. Okay, Andrew asked for a link in chat, please. Fair thing. I'll hook you up. Let me get you that link. That was one thing we didn't try in the sound check.
What was that?
Here we go. I got it. There we go. Okay. Cool. So now you can follow along with this. Oop, it's taking a moment to refresh. Okay, there we go. So we have this blog posting that talks about using SQLite as a PowerShell provider. Please read this. This is a long one that goes through some different SQLite PowerShell provider options and helps you understand the trade spaces with some of the options. But what's weird is, just like within drives, like I can switch between drives by like C and D like this, right? Nothing like out of the ordinary with this. There's other providers, and one of the providers are the registry keys. So the Windows registry, like good old regedit, right here, what you can do is you can actually interact with the registry. Let me drive back up here. Each one of these hives inside the registry that I'm highlighting are providers. So like if I want to play around with HKey local machine, what I can do within PowerShell, and this is really freaky, at least when I first found it, you can simply do like this. You can cd HKey local machine : boom. I'm now in the freaking registry, and now I can do like dir, and I actually see my directories, or like they look like directories, but these are actually, let me show you what I'm looking at here in the registry. So HKey local machine, I go into here. Now you'll note that there are some that you don't have the ability to look at. So when I tried to get into the SAM, I wasn't allowed to see that because that's where the password hashes are. And if I tried to do this within good old regedit, when I try to interact with that, wow, now it lets it. That shouldn't have allowed it. Well, demo fail. Okay. So, but you can cd to ones like software, and then you do dir, and you can actually interact and see these elements within the registry. And I think that that's really freaking cool. Now, this will become really important later on in the class tonight or today if you're watching it like at a later time. So whenever or wherever you are, this will make more interesting sense here in a little bit. But the idea here is that PowerShell, again, I said it in the past, and it's worth repeating, PowerShell, everything is an object. And now what I'm going to show you is how to use this old blog posting from the did it execute posting, and it used that to interact with the registry in a really cool way. And again, the neat thing about this is that you will be able to use this at scale with PowerShell remoting, or you can also use WMI to invoke PowerShell over like a process call create method if you don't have PowerShell remoting enabled. So let's get back to our regularly scheduled content. Take a look at this, and even if you don't want to create a SQLite provider for your FIM solution, it will help you understand the concept of providers and the richness that they can bring your own scripts. Like maybe for the file integrity monitoring demo, this isn't what you need, but I'm sure you'll run across something, and I want to expose this to you now rather than later. So there's a variety of persistence methods that bad guys use so that a machine will reinfect itself at a later date. And this is really key to understanding how systems will be recompromised. And what you should do is, if you don't already have a script or a tool that will grab the scheduled tasks for you or the services that are running, you need to make it, and you need to do it now. Hey, Brian, when you took Security 504, Strand was your instructor, right?
Yes, sir. Mr. Strand was.
All right. So now, when you did day 3, one of the things that you did at the end of it was you did a PS exec attack where you actually created a service temporarily and then you deleted that. Did he go into how you would go about detecting that?
No, actually, he didn't.
He might not have, because that day runs long.
It was, yeah.
It always does. What you need to be able to understand is that attackers will make system state changes. And what I would encourage you to do is take a look at PowerShell Kanza, or Kanza. I don't know how it's pronounced. Dave Hall, if you're listening, please let me know. Thank you. It will do things like gather for you the scheduled tasks. So let's... So one of the things that's really cool about Kanza is that it has these modules, and it will do things like gather some interesting things about your system, and you can like see what sort of processes are running, etc. And this is really handy because if you don't know what normal is on a system, you have no chance of having any sort of chance of getting what's like normal and correct in your environment. Oh, Kanza was mentioned. Cool deal. All right. So so you should have a lot of these capabilities already. And what I'll be doing is, over the course of this week, I will be putting some mini sections up that will give you further features and richness on this. What I plan on doing is actually backfilling some of the classes and explaining in better detail. I went back and watched the videos. By the way, it's always punishing to see yourself talk. Hi, future me. That you're like, oh, I can't believe I said that. But what I'm going to do is fill in these things. Oh, yeah, Brian, you have my condolences. Having to mix down your own audio is really brutal.
Oh, yeah.
It is. You're like, I never realized I said so many times. This is dynamite. This right here. Let me copy this link and put it in the chat for those of you who want it. Now, what's interesting is this FireEye blog I don't know what happened to it, and I'm deliberately going to load it here for a very good reason. This particular blog posting, something happened to it where the encodings or the like slashes where it's making reference to some registry components, you notice that the slashes have somehow been removed. So what you're going to want to do is either within your PowerShell prompt and walk down the directory, or if you're lazy like me, you can do so within regedit. Nobody cares really how you do it. It's just a matter of style points. But the key here, and that was a deliberate pun because we're talking about registry after all, the key here is to interact with the registry as this particular blog posting is telling you to do. Now, what's weird about this is there are different registry components, but there's also this prefetch. So we're going to talk about prefetch right now. Unless you've done forensics, you're probably not aware that there's a directory on Windows by default called prefetch. And what's weird is that this prefetch, you have to be an admin in order to look at it. Let me get back to a normal drive provider. When you do this, you can actually pull out the prefetch files. Now, what's interesting is these prefetch files are a listing of the different executables that ran on your system, and this time stamp is when it was that particular executable was last run. And the thing that's really, to me, freaking awesome, amazing about this is not only does it show the executable that ran, there's a little hash, and that hash is the path that the executable ran from. Now, what's cool about this, what's really, really cool about this, is if an attacker names an executable, something like, let's say they make a malicious Wireshark, and they run their wireshark.exe, and it's not running from the normal the normal location that Wireshark runs from, you can tell that because the hashes won't match. So whoever set that up at Microsoft, seriously, you did us a solid that is amazing. Really, really big ups to you. So this is a very neat area that not enough people know about, in my opinion. And so this is really, really fun. Oh, and somebody mentions back before things like malware bytes, this was a major spot for malware to hide. Huh, didn't know that. Today I learned. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
So,
I used to have to deep dive into that back in like 2000, 2001, 2002 to start pulling malware out of machines.
oh, so you would use it to find that the malware was run. They weren't hiding in the prefetch. You were just seeing that to find that the executable.
We were finding the executable. Well, it was finding persistence is what it was, because it was going ahead and kicking in at that point because nobody ever thought about using that prefetch directory for anything else.
That's
Most
awesome.
people I knew missed that directory completely.
That's, yeah, and well, and it's weird. There's certain things that you know, it's you know, by no means am I an expert at digital forensics, but one of the things that I find very odd is that there's things within the forensics community that the forensics folks take for granted that just a few steps away, even like incident responders or you know, other blue teamers or defenders have never heard about, and it's weird. I don't know why. And this isn't terribly arcane. Now, there is one thing to point out, though. These files are not, whoops, these files don't parse like, they're not text files. They are binary. So when you try to open them up with Notepad, oh, Oh, I'm in the wrong directory. Okay. For those of you who like demo fails, that's a really good one. What happens is, look at this, it's total garbage because it's not meant to be displayed in this manner. Bad. So what you need to have is some sort of parsing tool. Now, just about any forensics tool that's worth its salt can handle prefetch files, but what we're trying to do here is do things within PowerShell. So there's one cool tool out here from pigsty.net that will do the Windows prefetch, and that's neat, but it does not work on Windows 10. Power Forensics, though, does have this. So let me walk you through how you would go about using the Power Forensics prefetch features. So what I'm going to do is, just to show no tricks, I'm going to exit out of PowerShell entirely. So there's no PowerShell instances running on my box. And then I run as administrator. And the reason I want to run as admin is twofold. One, I'm going to have to install, well, the main reason is I'm going to install the module. So I do PowerShell EP bypass because I can't be bothered to turn off security across the board. And I am going to paste my install module Power Forensics. And once I've done the install module Power Forensics, I now have the Power Forensics modules. And one of them is Git Forensic Prefetch. Now, again, the cool thing about PowerShell is you can always do git help. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to cd, or actually let's do it this way. So I'm loading up Explorer, and I am going to go to Windows, Windows Prefetch. Open up this folder, and here's all my different prefetches. So what I can do in this case is, let's take a look at this particular cmd.exe prefetch instance. And so I'm not actually going to rename it, but what I'm doing is I'm taking this and I'm cheating. I'm copying and pasting. So we've got this on the clipboard. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do git forensic. By the way, they do support a lot of different commands, so git forensic alternate data stream, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to git forensic prefetch, and I do path, and I specify C Windows prefetch. And then if that works, I can now see that I have this result set. Now, from time to time, you are going to get results where there's no run count because that was getting prepped to run. Not Internet Explorer, but File Explorer was interacting with that, and it was getting ready, but it actually wasn't invoked. A shortcut that I've found, and it's not always good, but see how this one's only 3K in size? What you can do is look for ones that are larger, and you usually have a better shot of them actually doing something. So let's scroll up to one that's been used a bit. WinWord, for instance. Good old WinWord. I'm writing Windows or writing documents. So what I'm going to do is grab this prefetch file name, and then I'm going to go in here. Talk about demo files. The run count on this was not 0 when I was doing the, yeah, I know, saw that coming. Yeah, me too, Andrew. I'm going to have to investigate this. I might be doing something wrong, or I might have invoked it incorrectly, or who knows? I don't know. In the interest of time, unfortunately, I'm going to keep rolling along because I want to talk about some other things. But my goal is I do want to make a different a tool that replicates how this this pigsty forensics one worked. I quite liked it because this one worked on the last version that it supported was Windows 8. So I'll be hacking around on this. There are Python versions that parse the Windows 10. So if you're wanting to hack on this with me, feel free to do so, because especially the Autopsy and Sleuthkit forensics groups have done a good job of making parsers for Windows 10 prefetch. So moving on, we're now moving to the registry objects. There are 3 different types of registry entries that particular did it execute blog talk about. Now, I'm going to warn you, these all have various levels of jank in terms of the result sets that come back. And what I'm doing is exposing you to the raw, and we can start playing with them in terms of how to make them return result sets that are better. And one of them, I swear to you, you're going to think I'm trolling you, but I'm not. So the first one is Shincache. I've actually saved the one that you're thinking I'm trolling to the end because, dramatic irony and stuff like that. What we're going to do is look at a registry key and get values out of it. The easiest way to do this is to load a key value like so. You can type in the reg key like that. And one of the things that I like to do is just to make sure that the key was imported as expected. Echo it to the display like so. Now, one thing to point out is, again, you have to go through this blog posting and insert the slashes and this colon, otherwise it's not going to work. So feel free to copy the slide deck when it's made available later this evening on the website, and use that as a jumping off point. And so now I can actually reference this particular registry key value. This worked. Why is this not working? Okay, let's, all right. So for those of you who like when I have demo fails, let's walk through how you troubleshoot this. So what you would do is you can either CD into your particular area that you're going to go into. So let's go that route. It didn't like the fact that I didn't have quotes around it when I did the CD. The reason it didn't like that is that there's the space between. Oh, I found that there's a typo. It's Control Session Manager. Yep, okay, I found it. That's weird that I didn't copy paste correctly. What I'm going to do now, make that, and then echo my key. And before I go further, I'm going to fix that. That goes right there. And saved. Okay, cool. So now when I go up, oh boy, why is this? System control session app manager apt compat cache. That should be valid. Let's. Yeah, I have seriously pissed off the demo gods. But you know what? this is just among friends and anybody on the internet who's watching. Hi, internet. No pressure. What's fun about this, though, is, okay, so it's still not happy about this path. So let me look at my code here a second. Oh, I see what I did. I got this twice. That's weird. Okay, that should fix it. Now, the lesson that I learned here is be careful where you copy paste from, because clearly I was grabbing from a different spot. There we go. Hey! Yay! Demo works! And there was much rejoicing. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Mick, what in the bloody blue blazes is happening here? I don't understand what this is about. Well, quite frankly, that's a good question. And if you read the blog posting for this, this is actually a binary blob that contains some pretty interesting info. What we're looking at is a stream of info that we need to go ahead and parse. And I'll be giving a little helper script on how, or not helper script, but like a commandlet command line that you can use to do this parsing. It's kind of tedious, but it will get the job done, and we'll be off to the races, and you can do that. We'll move on to the next one, is the MUI cache. Now, this MUI cache is, whoops, what is this now? One thing I want to point out, some folks mentioned this to me from the last session. They said, hey, Mick, I noticed when you were copying and pasting things, sometimes there were smart quotes enabled. One really neat thing about PowerShell is, this is a little stylistic thing, foo equals single quotes bar works, but you can also do like the smart quotes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy these smart quotes. Notice how it's this is a neat little hack. Whoops. And let's name this foo2 equals bar. And so it accepted that, which is weird. I think that that's really weird, but that's nice, because those of you who are back from the CMD days will probably be surprised that that works. CMD does not accept that at all. It would totally freak out. So moving along. Sorry for the little side tangent. I'm giving a double check now, and once a bit very shy. Now here, I'm iterating through the keys. Whoops. And here you see that I'm actually able to get my different properties. And so I'm able to pull the MUI cache, and I'm able to get some different property values out of that. So that's really fun, and that's really useful. So what you can do now is use that to see if a particular program was run. And in this case, we can see that Firefox was run. Now, yes, the display on this is a little janky, and yes, you can do additional analysis on that, but we'll dive into that at another time. I'll give you some more pointers on how to do this, but yay, we had a demo that worked correctly. So our last one to talk about a little bit is the user assist. Now, user assist is seriously weird because what's fun to me about this is this will tell you whether or not Windows was getting ready to run a particular item. And in this case, they are ROT13 values. That, honest to God, like, if you don't believe me, let me pull this up here. By the way, I want to note encrypted with ROT13. Are you freaking kidding me? This is why we can't have nice things. So, and like for real, like when you go into that particular, yeah, as the chat room just goes, OMG, like what the heck? What you do in there? Oh, I don't want to. I believe it's get child item that I want here. There we go. These are the different key values, and then inside of them are what we're after. So now, here, let's do this in the PowerShell way. So I'm going to cd into this. And you do dir, and hey, you get the same results that you had. What I'm going to do is cd into one of these. Oh, geez. Let's just try it this way. Oh, it's not letting me do tab autocomplete. Oh, it's seeing these as script blocks. Let's see if I can force these in as strings. And there you go. Now, I want to point out what I did here. Those single ticks are how you escape things in PowerShell. For those who haven't seen it yet, you could check out invoke obfuscation. Because in the invoke obfuscation framework, here, let me put this into chat. In the invoke obfuscation, they take great joys in hiding using these sorts of things. So now we have our different properties. And this property here is the bit that has ROT13 encryption. So now all you need to do is simply run a ROT13 process within PowerShell. Now the good news is there's quite a few ways to do this, and what I would encourage you to do is take a look and download them. One of them is actually from the Naishang PowerShell exploitation framework, which there's a certain oddity in that, at least I find it, is where is it here? So Naishang is a PowerShell exploitation framework, and you can actually use this to decrypt that particular key. Now, the thing that's funny to me is that we're actually using a pen tester obfuscation technique to deobfuscate what Microsoft is doing so that we can do defensive work. So there's either irony or karmic justice. I don't know what the proper literary term is. maybe somebody who's a little more scholarly, then we can help clear that up. So that's kind of the homework that I have for you, is to start looking at these particular things and start using and leveraging the components that we have to get a better feel for what the bad guys are doing on our environments. And then we can start talking about how we can start using this to at scale. That will be the final class, is like doing things at scale with PowerShell remoting, or using the invoke command with a remote computer. So that's kind of what I've got planned on deck. I'm going to be posting this fairly soon. And if anyone has any questions or whatnot, feel free to ask away and let me know. If there's anything that you want to jam on in our time together, feel free and let me know, and we'll be good to go. So I see there's 18 people. We've been oddly quiet.
Yeah. So does anybody have any questions or thoughts or suggestions or anything? I'm going to stop the recording. So
Okay.
this is we can still have questions after, but I'm going to stop the recording for everybody on the World Plus Dog. So so that was it for the fourth session of our 6-session class. If you have any thoughts, questions, or suggestions, reach out to @BetterSafetyNet on Twitter, or scroll back. Seek back to the beginning of the video and the website with his contact information. Mick's contact information will be there. Okay? All right. Have a good one.